Good day, greetings everybody. Lots to talk about today. Sprouts are doing well. Tomatoes will be, one is going into a large pot outside tonight, and it's still getting cold, but I'm going to try it. That is the subarctic plenty tomato. Can handle the chillier weather. This is the New Zealand spinach, and that is one seed. Sprouted all of those, so they'll be separated and put into the ground. The broccoli rabe, some of the plants are done flowering and some of them aren't, but the seed pods are developing nicely. Once the plant starts to dry out, I'll have to keep a close eye on them, as there are certain bugs that like to eat into the seed pods. French endive, looking really good. And one of these bigger pots will house the tomatoes. But in just a few short days, the lettuce transplants have doubled in size. And so I decided to put them up here and then put the tomato in the center, and that way I could just run a pole, strap it to the deck. And the basil in the little greenhouse is weathering the 40-degree temperatures at night. And here's the rest of the sprouts, watermelon. And see, this was the last 4 of this variety tomato. And I said I have no doubts that the other one would come up for me. And there he is. And there are some discrepancies, and you'll be reading on tomatoes of whether they cross or not. Some say they do, some say they don't. I've grown different tomato varieties very close in proximity and never had a cross occur. You know, some say they're just an inbreeding plant, perfect flower. So a lot of the tomatoes, you know, are there's hardly any size difference. And then others, you see that. It's like, wow, you know, look at that really big one, then medium, and then the newest sprout. So, cucumbers, this is an early Russian. My first year with them, and they'll be in the garden next week. Lots of time, sprouted, and the new variety of okra this year is emerald. So I wanted to show you, especially for people new to making seed, that this is a cilantro plant. Otherwise, is in seed form, it's known as coriander, and in leaf form, it's known as cilantro. And, you know, typical in a Mexican dish, but here you could see the leaf change. And this plant is bolting, getting ready to form its seed pods. And it's not the best specimen of a cilantro plant that I've ever grown, but it will let it produce seed, even if I just use it for the coriander and not to grow. And we do have strawberries starting to go ripe, and when these are planted in big beds, I've said, you know, they send out the runners and they just continually make babies. So it's good to pick a spot that you're going to be able to expand the bed, even if you can't get to it right then and there, making a huge bed for them, you know, that you're going to be able to dig around and get the grass and weeds up in order to let them sprawl. But I do want to comment that a strawberry is named strawberry, and the reason for that, a lot of people don't realize, is that the berries are on these long stems and they are sitting on the ground if they're not in a pot. And once they start to form, it is a good idea to use hay and place it under the cluster of berries so they're not sitting directly on your soil. And this will stop molding and also insect damage. We had a casualty of one of the broccolis. I don't know. I believe it was a dog and not a rabbit or anything else, because everything else would have most likely been mowed over as well. So there's some of the broccoli transplants and Swiss chard. And the fig tree, south side of a fence, a building, They, for whatever reason, they like to be planted really close. He went in a few days ago. Absolutely no droop in the leaves. No signs of fatigue at all. So I got him in. And then, of course, there are more of the broccoli rabe seed pods. They're just all over the place. And I suspect pretty soon here that this is going to start bolting up very quickly. The fish are now just starting to become a little active and needing some food. There are the new strawberries. They're coming up really nice. I was surprised to see the berries with such cold weather, especially going ripe. That was a little on the peculiar side. Now my puppies dug up the blackberry. They decided to chew on his stem and drag him out. I got him in the ground quick enough. The leaves are still nice and green. Oh, we have a casualty there. And so I suspect he'll do well. He'll take nicely. And what else? The rue. The rue's starting to get its flowers to make its seed pods. And they're a tiny, very tough pod with about 4 or 5 different compartments that you will have to break into to get the seed from that. So, I made a mistake. The gardenias on the other side of the house, that's actually a white azalea. When I saw the white buds, I thought, oh, that's the gardenia. But the gardenia's in the back. And this was the best of the chard. Still looking like the best of all of them that I planted in the different locations. And in the aquarium, I'm doing a ginger root experiment. I got some root from the store, a really nice big cluster. I broke it in 3, soaked it in water for about 24 hours in case it had been sprayed with an inhibitor, and I plopped it in there, so we're going to see what happens there. And I hadn't checked on this today, so we'll get to see together if there's anything. I know that there's going to be something here because a few days ago I put in my newest lettuce sprouts in a little wave pattern. But as far up, let me see. Yes, hot. And now I don't even remember what it is. But you know, if you're not sure if it's weed or your sprouts coming up, you just look and see if your sprouts are uniform. And if they're all uniform leaf shape, chances are they are your plants and not some weeds sprouting alongside. So, this was the little nursery garden, and I noticed the other day that the spinach was just starting in some spots, and this is interesting too, because some of them come up and they still have their little seeds attached to the tips. So the spinach is up. Mustard greens will be thinned next week. First day of good weather. And this is what the borage looks like. And this plant grows very fast with those beautiful blue flowers, and the bees will just be all over it. Radish, big time growth on some of these. And there are the peas, which you could hardly even see them on the last video I shot. So there they are. And by the spacing, it looks like I'm running a really great germination rate there. I'm only seeing a couple little bald spots. So I'm gonna, just by looking at it, this is easily 80 to 90% germination rate. So I couldn't be happier with that. This is very hard for me to see in the sunlight what is actually being filmed. Hope I'm pointing that lens in the right spot. And these onions from Skybird Bird are just absolutely, they have now been through 2 transplants and no signs of problems at all with them. And there's that beautiful dragon mix, the cooking greens for Thai cooking. And I buried these guys pretty deep, so no signs of the potato greens yet. And these are the golden potatoes. And I also plugged in some purple ones near the driveway, but I think the dogs may have dug them up. Ah, and while we're out roaming around, I'll go check the wild blackberries. These guys have received absolutely no attention since I put them in, and hopefully everybody took. You know, especially the wild things, you know, they're just super, super tough. And yeah, he's fine. He's green almost all the way up, and I'll probably come in here and clip it, you know, down to about here. And this little guy held on to his leaves for the transplant. He's so tiny. And the bigger one, we still are holding on to some green leaves and some new development, and the stems are looking healthy. These are just ornery as can be with those thorns on them, but I'll tell you what, the flavor is unbeatable. The domestics are great to have because they're thornless and they're large berries, but the flavor just doesn't compare with the wild ones. So I like to do a mix when I do the preserves. So that's the garden update. I don't think there's anything else happening. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.